But just to let you know a little bit about what we're going to be covering and what you're going to get out of this webinar today. So the first thing is we want to empower you with the truth about your home and your house. So there's going to be a lot of information, but we're going to make it simple for you so it'll be easy to understand. You're going to learn the real steps you can take to improve your environment and your home. We know most of you who are here have clicked on an ad to get here. There's something, you've got questions, you're looking for actual solutions that you can use. And so we've got some of those. And then, like I said, there's no need to take notes. We'll send you this recording, a lot of resources. We'll send you the slides of this presentation, and then you'll have really simple steps and tangible ways and next steps that you can take, if you so desire. Okay. All right, Kay. So why are you ladies here? And I say ladies because over 99% of all of our webinar participants are women. And we're going to talk a little bit about why that's the case. But the reason that you clicked on this ad and you're curious is probably has something to do with, you suspect that your home is making you sick. You might have found mold. You may notice a difference when you leave your home and you feel better, and then you come home and then you start to feel your illnesses kind of grow. You might have trouble convincing a loved one that your home is making you sick. You may know that your home is making you sick, but someone that you care about, might be a decision maker in the household, or that you're in a marriage or a relationship with, is not convinced because they don't have the right information. You haven't been able to communicate that the right way. Maybe you found mold in your home and you're trying to figure out what to do. You're dealing with mold remediation, in the middle of that process right now, or you're worried that your remediation has failed, right? So these are all things that we're going to cover, and we understand these problems very well. Myself, I am Seth Jones, the co-founder of Superstratum, and I've got John Miles, our Chief Science Officer, here today as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about our company, what we do, how we think about this problem, and how we help hundreds and thousands of people restore their homes to get their health back in line with their goals. Okay, so jumping right in here. Actually, first, before we do that, let me go back and just ask a quick question. How many of you are here because you think your home's making you sick, you think your home's making you sick, but you've come into an awareness that maybe there's something that's making you sick in your home, or that could be. If that's the case, put a 1 in the chat. I would love to see how many people are there. And let's take a look. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So that's very common. Now, if you have tried a solution before, or you've had mold remediation done before, put a 2 in the chat if you're in the middle of trying to solve a problem of getting your home back in order. Okay. Yep. Yeah. So these are very, very common situations. That's good to know. That's good to know. Also, I didn't mention another thing that we're going to do at the end here. We'll have a Q&A session where you'll be able to submit a call, ask a question. We're going to handle some of your situations live, John and I will, but also feel free to ask questions in the chat, and Elizabeth can help you with some of those as well, and I'll try to respond to them as I see them. Okay, now let's hop into the sick home epidemic and learn about this problem. So the first thing that it's important to understand when you're trying to get a wrangle on your situation is understand how a home gets sick and what that means. So a home getting sick always starts with a building failure. Now, that building failure could occur when the home is being built. Maybe the wood was left out in the rain and it got inoculated with mold and they didn't dry the house out properly. It could happen because the roof fails 20 years into the home and a leak develops over time that you don't see, and that water spot, appears on the ceiling. Or it could be in the HVAC system or the crawl space, or there are a variety of ways. But when a building fails, moisture accumulates in that building. And in our current modern homes today, we build very energy efficient homes. Now, these homes are airtight. They keep that conditioned air inside of the home. And that's very good for our energy bills, and we're very thankful for that. But that also traps moisture inside the envelope. So when the building fails and moisture accumulates, now you've got an airtight environment where mold can grow. And that's what happens in our modern homes. As we all know, mold becomes a problem. And when that mold grows, it can release its defense mechanism, its chemical weapon into the air. This is called the mycotoxins. And the mycotoxins, we'll talk about those. Those are separate from the mold, but this is a new emerging awareness within mold remediation and environmental work and cleaning, that these toxins are actually separate from the mold and that they can contaminate an indoor space in a different way. So the mold grows, creates mycotoxins, which contaminate the building, and then that same envelope traps that toxic air inside of the building. So generally speaking, this is how a home gets sick. And every home, just like every body, is a little bit different and gets sick in a little bit different ways, but it all has these same systems that can fail. Okay, so how many homes are sick? How big is this problem? So many people who are dealing with this feel so alone. They feel like there's no information. But the truth is, this is extremely, extremely common. This data comes from places like the Energy Administration, the Insurance Administration, but there are various numbers, but conservatively speaking, the government at one time said that 65 million homes in the United States had ongoing water damage issues. So these could be humidity issues in a home. They could be an ongoing leak. It could be a basement that doesn't drain properly. These moisture events, 65 million homes, almost half of the homes. And with the 2.6 Americans living in these homes that have these ongoing water damage issues and mold and potentially mycotoxins, that's 170 million Americans right now in these conditions. And we'll talk a little bit about this as well, but genetics is a big factor when it comes to building-related illness and mold and your health. How your genetics respond in that environment really can dictate how your health responds in that environment. And some doctors say that up to 40% of people have genetics that make it extremely difficult for them in these toxic environments. So that's 67 million people that are likely experiencing some type of symptom from living in these toxic homes. That's a lot of people. So this is not an uncommon experience for people to have, but it's very difficult to identify. And then once it's identified, it can be difficult and confusing to solve and help navigate that. So, as well, there's 2.2 million homes every year that are experiencing water damage issues. So this is not a problem that is going away. Our buildings are failing, and there's a lot of reasons why that's the case. And the mold issue and the subsequent health effects of this is getting worse as well, because our buildings are now much more tight than they were in the past. So when all of these things come together, we have millions of Americans who are sick, who are visiting doctors. They don't know why they're sick. They have a little bit of awareness around the fact that their home might be making them sick, but they don't understand it. They don't know where to go. So it's a very, very, very large problem. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about mycotoxins. As we mentioned, the first microbe that grows in a home is mold. When the building fails and moisture gets into that home, mold grows and it releases mycotoxins. Now, many people are not familiar with mycotoxins, and we can go deep into the world of mycotoxins, but we're going to keep it very, very simple for today. What it's important to understand is that mycotoxins are chemical toxins that are created by mold. Okay, so they're separate from the mold. A mold and the mold spores and everything that you hear about is a living organism. But that living organism creates a poison, like a snake in its venom. The mycotoxin is the poison of the mold. It creates this as a defense mechanism primarily against bacteria. Bacteria is the main enemy of mold. So when you have an airtight, moist home and bacteria and mold begin to grow, this causes these microbes to compete with each other, and mold will create this poison. And that poison can get into the air. It is nanoparticle in size, so filters will not filter out mycotoxins. They can adhere to surfaces. It's a very sticky type of chemical. So we know different things because they have been extensively studied within food and agriculture, both from all the many types of of mycotoxins to the damaging effects of mycotoxins in the body. Right. I love to see the questions coming in. Okay, so the health effects of mycotoxins. Let's talk a little bit about this. Now, again, there's a lot of information that can be covered. There's deep dives, a lot of information online about the health effects of mold and mycotoxins. We won't go too deep into it, but I think it is important when you're looking at your building to have an understanding of your symptoms and the correlation of your symptoms and the work that you're doing with your doctor so that you can really understand how your home is affecting your health and what needs to be done. So speaking from our experience and the work that we've done, we have seen a lot of autoimmune diseases in our clients and our customers. And these are all things that scientific studies have linked mycotoxins and mold to. And really, when we work with people who were sick, people who are trying to figure out what their chronic illnesses are, or they connect to their home, we see the same types of customers again and again, which, although we're not doctors, really helps us to understand the types of building related illnesses that people deal with in these environments. So autoimmune diseases, broadly speaking, are very common, pandas in children. Mycotoxins have even been linked to things like autism and MS and Alzheimer's and some of the neurodegenerative conditions. They're very hard on the liver, so liver diseases. There are studies that show that. In our customers, we see lots of the things like gut imbalances and bloating, the food allergies, anxiety, depression, brain fog, nervous system dysregulation, these types of things. And I would pause here and say, we're a company that makes products and solutions to heal the home, but we've all been through this ourselves, and in various ways at various times, myself included. It was one of the reasons that I was involved in starting this company, that I've given my life to this mission to help people heal their homes, because it affected me very, very deeply. And I was able to, really experience, unfortunately, on that level, what it means to be with a partner who's dealing with this and they're sick and you don't know why, to feel the effects of the health yourself, to not understand why you're sick and that you are sick and how these things fit together. So I think it's very important for people who, to begin with, to really validate themselves and be able to own the fact that, okay, yes, I do feel when I come into this building that all these things happen to me, and I can't explain it, and I might not be able to explain it to someone else in this way. But when you have enough information to validate yourself and to know, okay, yes, when I have gut issues and my hair is falling out and my kids are anxious or having bouts of rage, or my husband has, is can't get up in the morning, or whatever it is, you start to realize that the family unit is sick, or that all of your symptoms, are really pointing to this reality that there's something in the home that is making you sick. Okay, so your home's making you sick. Maybe your home's making you sick, right? Where do we start? So I like to generally tell people there's really three areas to look for when you're assessing your home for issues, where the issue might be, when you are going to fix and repair those issues. And the first is, of course, the hidden leaks, the building failures where the roof leaks, there's a pipe that has burst, and water either rushes into the home or drips over a long period of time, and mold grows. That can be a long exposure, and those can be very difficult sometimes to identify because you can't always see them. There are signs like the water spots that appear, those types of things. But hidden leaks is the one that we all are the most familiar with. I would say most people are familiar with. Crawl spaces is one of the largest issues now, especially in new homes. And we see on our team sees many contractors now who, before the home is even built, there's mold growing and they have to have a mold remediator come in and remediate the mold. So many of these homes are problems, and many of these crawl spaces have really severe moisture issues before homeowners even move in. And we tell people that the crawl space is very, very important because so much of the air in the home that you breathe actually comes up from the crawl space. So I have seen in a couple of customers' cases, they were very sick or very depressed, very anxious, and they had a toxic crawl space, even though they couldn't identify any mold inside their home. And that air was coming up through the floor, and they had been breathing it in over a very long period of time. So crawl spaces is very important. And then most importantly, the HVAC unit. This is because of the dehumidification process of the HVAC, because of how moisture is involved, because of the hidden nature of ductwork. This is an area where many times mold grows. And when mold grows from a hidden leak behind a wall, these types of things, it's easier to avoid or keep happy, so to speak, or it doesn't spread as much because it's a little bit more contained. Now, it's still an issue and needs to be fixed, and it can be a very serious issue. But when you have a serious mold issue in your HVAC system, that is the lungs of your home. So all of the air that you breathe is passing over that mold. And when those are the types of molds that produce mycotoxins, and when those spores and mycotoxins become airborne, we've seen some very significant or very difficult cases of people who simply by taking control of their environment were really able to improve their health and work with their doctors in some cases. In other cases, it seemed as though their body just responded to the environment that they were able to create. Okay, I'm looking at some of the comments here. My son has eczema, allergies, and rage. Yes, very common. I was actually speaking to a customer yesterday whose son, they were dealing with almost the exact same thing. My daughter developed ADHD. That was one of actually my symptoms when I was in a toxic home, was the ADHD, which eventually led to calling a psychiatrist and getting an Adderall prescription because I didn't understand that the home was toxic. All right. Okay, so why are mycotoxins particularly difficult in restoring a sick home? Well, because mycotoxins are chemicals, okay, they don't die like mold. Now, mold is difficult to deal with, but it can be killed, it can be removed, right? Mycotoxins are more of a contamination. So they spread in all over the home. They, like we said, they stick onto surfaces, and you can't kill them. So if you take away water, if you wait a long time, they don't die. They will stay in the home. And for people who are sensitive, they can affect them for long periods of time. And also, traditional cleaning and disinfectants don't destroy mycotoxins. And this is one of really what became the mission of our company is when we saw this problem, we said, there is not a solution for the mycotoxin. There's lots of cleaning chemicals and disinfectants and things for mold, but the mycotoxin that remains from the mold is the most problematic thing for people who are sick inside their homes. Also, standard mold tests don't detect mycotoxins. And this is just now becoming known within IEPs and remediators and in the mold remediation industry, is that you can remediate a building and remove the mold, but there might still be mycotoxins in that environment. And if that's the case, a mold test is not going to show that contamination. So you could feel just as bad or even worse in that home without having the positive environmental data to show you why. And so that's a big problem for people. And then especially mycotoxins are especially harmful for those who have building-related illnesses or chemical sensitivities, right? If you have certain types of genetics, and I know there's some in the chat, we were talking about that, that can make you extremely sensitive to mycotoxins. If you're sensitive to other VOCs and chemicals, and if you have autoimmune diseases already, chronic illnesses from childhood, those sorts of things, you're very susceptible to these types of toxins. Okay, so I want to tell a couple of stories about people who have been in this situation that we've helped in various ways, because unfortunately, you're all on this call because there's oftentimes no one size fits all. We have really tried to build our products and our services for people, so to empower them. But a lot of times, it's very individual and unique what a person needs. So I want to show you a little bit the spectrum of what we deal with at Superstratum and how we help our customers. So Kristen is an example of a customer and a client that we were helping. So she had some severe digestive issues. She was making ER visits. I don't know if she had a diagnosis of colitis or something like that, but it was she was having some severe digestive issues. She had sought some medical treatment for that had begun to work for her, but was also suspecting that maybe it was her home that was causing this problem. So she didn't address the home, but she began to treat, her body. Her body started to get better, but when she returned back to the home, eventually those symptoms overtook her, and she then began dealing with very extreme bouts of bloating and inflammatory bowels and things like that. And that was when she called us, and we advised her to leave the home because of how severe her symptoms were and what we suspected was going on. And within 24 to 48 hours, she went from such severe gut issues and not being able to really eat much because she was in such extreme bloating and pain, to her symptoms had pretty much resided within 36 to 48 hours, and she was back on a regular diet. And she had not done anything except for that she left her home. So from there, she became convinced that it was her home that was causing this problem. I love to tell her story because for most of the people that we help are women, because women are most predisposed to the health effects because of the complexity of hormones, because of the time spent in their environment, because of other autoimmune issues, other complications with pharma drugs and things like that. So we see a lot of women, and oftentimes it falls on the woman in the household to restore this home, to move towards a solution. And I like to tell Kristen's story because she is a single girl in her 20s who lives with a roommate and was renting her home. So she could have felt very powerless in this situation when, she had a little job and she was staying in a home that she loved. She didn't want to leave it, but it was making her extremely, extremely sick. And she took some initiative. She called her landlord, she got her ducts cleaned, and she detoxified her home. And she has been living in that house, since then, and hasn't had any more, didn't have any issues after that. But Brittany reached out to us because she had a major mold issue. At this point in her story, they were from Texas. She is from Texas, and they had bought their dream home there. And they had been there about 2 years. It was a new build. And about 2 years in, they realized that the home was full of mold. And what had happened was the builder had left the vapor barrier off of the home during the construction, and all of the wall cavities had filled with mold, mold that they couldn't see, but it had grown throughout the whole house. Her family had gotten extremely sick. The builder, it was a large builder. They called their own mold remediators out, told them that there was nothing there. And then when she finally was able to bring her own mold remediator out, she found that there was a serious issue, So that home is not salvageable, which was devastating for their family, especially because of how sick the family was. They were so sick that they were living and sleeping all together in the living room because that was really the safest place in the house for them. All the while, their finances were locked up because they bought the home at a high interest rate. So they were stuck paying a high mortgage in a home that was killing them, and their builder was not cooperating. They were getting involved with legal. It was truly a nightmare situation, and still is. Frankly, they're still dealing with it. And so this is another type of our customer. And there are thousands and perhaps millions of people today who are in a situation like this. And this is really the mission of our company. This is why we exist, to develop products and solutions to help people who are in these situations. Now, Brittany reached out, not really knowing what to do. Obviously, she was there was a lot of information coming to her. She didn't know what to do. She called us, and we helped her create a plan. Now, in a situation like Brittany's, it's this is a unique situation. This is where our team and our experience can help develop a plan, work with other professionals, who might be involved in this job, be they mold remediators or contractors or those sorts of things. So our technical team, our pro products and solutions, we also can be very involved on the pro and the service side of things. And when a job gets particularly difficult, like in Brittany's case, and we need to help develop a solution that is not going to solve the problem, because this is an unsolvable problem in terms of the building. They need to survive for a period of time until they can leave that home. So, whether you're on the Kristen's side of the spectrum, where you're empowered yourself to heal your home, or whether you're on Brittany and the Nicole's side of the spectrum, where you need some real guidance and help and support, we're able to do that. Okay, how do we heal a sick home? So these could be webinars upon courses in themselves. As I mentioned, we're going to keep this very simple, just so that we can all leave this webinar with an understanding of the general narrative of how this works. So the first thing to do when healing a sick home is to fix the water intrusion. The building fails, water gets in the home, the source of that moisture needs to be fixed. The second step is to remediate the mold that has grown in that home because of the water intrusion. Now, this is like I said, a whole project in and of itself, a whole series in and of itself. We're not going to go too deep into mold remediation. We do have a mold remediation guide that's available on our website, and there's a lot of information and good people and mold coaches who talk about how to remediate mold properly. But the general things to understand about mold remediation is you want to remove mold from the building. When mold is growing on drywall, on wood, anywhere like that in your home, in the ductwork, it doesn't need to be sprayed and left. It doesn't need to be fogged. It needs to be removed. So mold remediation means removal of mold. And then, as we mentioned, HVAC system is the most important part of the house when you're talking about the air you breathe and toxicity of that air. So the duct cleaning should always be a part of that. It astounds me how many people that I see today who have mold remediations or trying to address their building, and something as simple as cleaning the ducts doesn't even cross their mind. So duct cleaning is very, very important. But this isn't the full picture, or it's not the full solution of how you heal a sick home, because for many people, this is not enough, right? As we've talked about, there's mold remediation, there's mycotoxin production in that environment, and that toxic air gets trapped. That person is sensitized. They've had a mold remediation, or they don't think they have mold. Maybe there's still mycotoxins there. They're still sensitive. So mold remediation is not enough. The missing piece in healing a sick home is cleaning and detoxifying the home, the entire building envelope, not just the containment area where the mold remediator worked, or not just the ductwork, but your building envelope is a container, and mycotoxins can contaminate that container, and they can stick around for years even after the mold is gone. So what's needed after a mold remediation job, or when the dust in a home and the odors and the VOCs have accumulated within that trapped environment, is you need a full envelope mycotoxin cleaning and detoxification. And that's often overlooked when people are dealing with mold remediation jobs, or they've cleaned mold themselves, which often happens in the remediation and in DIY mold cleaning. Oftentimes, you can cause the mold to release mycotoxins. And that is sometimes a reason why people feel sick after they've cleaned mold or they've remediated mold in their home. So that's, again, a reason why this is important to do. And the detoxification of the home is essential. This is what transforms the results. And I'm going to steal a line that John uses all the time. When we think about the home, and when you've got a problem, if you think about the home like a car, right? When your car breaks down or your car crashes and you need to get that car fixed, well, there are mechanics that have to work on that car to fix it. And there are mold remediators and contractors and people that might need to fix the home or remediate the mold in that home. But the mechanic is not the same person who's going to detail the exterior and the interior of that car, right? That is a different process and a different skill. And this is what we're talking about when we're talking about mycotoxin cleaning and detoxification. And we'll talk about, well, we'll have John talk a little bit about what this cleaning process is and how it works. But you can think about it like the detailing of a car. You don't want your the greasy fingers, let's say, of your mechanic in the interior of your car. Okay, Superstratum. So we won't talk too much about the history of our company today, but I'll give you a brief overview of who we are, who I am, who we are. So like I said, my name is Seth Jones, and I think you're here because you saw me on the ad. I am the co-founders and the CEO of Superstratum. We have John Miles here, who you'll hear from in just a second, who is our Chief Science Officer. He's in North Carolina at our manufacturing and fulfillment center where all of our products go out of. Our team there, Chris, our production manager, they do a fantastic job. So if any of you are already our customers, you may have dealt with them and know them. So he's in North Carolina. I'm in Nashville, where our sales team is and our corporate office is, and we do our work from here. So we've started the company about 5 years ago. We are a mission-focused company. We've all experienced this. We saw the issues within mold remediation and traditional cleaning, and we did a lot of research with some laboratories to show that we could destroy these mycotoxins and that we had a now patent pending process to detoxify an entire home. And not only that, but we could put it into the hands of consumers and people like yourself who are still on this call listening and learning to implement solutions into your home to help you and your family. So that's why we're here. We develop those cutting edge cleaning and detox solutions for your home. We're constantly developing new products. We are designing those products to be effective in the ways that they need to be, while also being extremely safe and gentle for people, because people who have BRI, building-related illness, are the most sensitive types of people when it comes to cleaning chemicals. We make these, like we said, for homeowners, but also for professionals. There are cleaning companies and mold remediators who use our chemicals, and we work with professionals and with our customers on their jobs. And our focus, like I said, we're a mission-focused company. We are focused on helping people restore the health of their buildings so that they can restore their own health. All right, I'm going to invite John onto the webinar here to give you a quick update or a quick walkthrough of our whole home system. And John, you can introduce yourself, and I'd love for you to give the audience here a little bit of your background, quickly, and how you kind of found yourself here, and then you can explain the system and how it works.
Sure. I'm John Miles. I'm a chemist by education. Went to the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina. Did not go into the military, but spent most of my career developing and then also selling specialty coatings. That would be all the different adhesives, the coatings, caulks, sealants, paints and coatings, and adhesives that are all in the building envelope of your home, from the flooring all the way to the different caulks that you would use. So that's my background, and kind of came with Seth 5 years ago. We saw this unique solution, which is our endurance coating. This product has outstanding long-term performance that you apply to any surface that it will not grow mold onto. So that's kind of how I came involved in this. And from that, we also recognized that mycotoxins were the true source of the problems in homes and the toxicity that was going on. So we did the research and identified two different chemistries that would be safe after the use of these. And that's our HEHOCl, which is our building cleaner, and then the delivery systems of our chlorine dioxide. So to go a little bit into this, our whole home system, which you can read from our website on our notes page and go to the blogs, and you will see this, is broken down into three different phases. The first phase is using our building cleaner, our unique HEHOCl product. This is unlike other HOCLs that may be on the industry. This particular product has been proven to oxidize and start the chemical breakdown of these particular toxins. So what we focus on is fogging in this environment first, the walls and the ceilings. We also get an overspray of all the contents in that. Then we come back into that same phase with a deep micro clean, a forensic clean of all the contents and all the surfaces, the door moldings, and we're HEPA vacuuming and also spraying and wiping with disposable wipes, paper towel types, high dollar paper towels. Uh, Bounty is what I like to say. So in this particular area of this micro clean. Then we move to the second phase of this is our gassing of our with our chlorine dioxide delivery system. These are set up in cubic feet area from our 100 grams to our 25 grams, indicative to the cubic feet of the bedroom or the bathrooms and the closets and all the open areas. So you may have multiple 100 grams in that. You set these off with a little bit of warm water in the tray, and then you walk away from this environment for 12 hours. This gas gets to where the liquids don't get to, and it penetrates those areas using a fan to move this gas around and penetrate all these areas and start once again the oxidation of any residual mycotoxins that could have been left behind. And then after this area has been done, we air out this phase, either by opening up your doors and windows or just letting over time this decompose. Both of these chemistries, when they do break down, they break back down to salt. So no one's allergic to salt. So none of these residues are issues for toxicity, and none of these residues will also hurt you. For any future contact. Then our third phase is focused around our coating, the endurance coating. So all those places that you have high condensations, if they're in your crawl space or your basement or your attic, that you've known you've had issues with, even open walls that you maybe have doing remediation in. This is where you want to apply this endurance coating. This product has great long-term performance, will last well over 15 plus some years, protecting in these environments, especially in the environments of back between a wall or in a crawl space that you may not go evaluate to even look. So if any new mold spore lands on that surface, it will not grow on the surface of this coating. So this gives you protection. And then also inside your home, behind your washer and dryers, refrigerators, underneath the sinks that you probably none of you have checked recently. This will eliminate any type of mold growth, that mold spores that they will come into your home, land on those surfaces, will not grow. So that's in a nutshell, pretty quickly, what our whole home system is. We do have video tutorials on our solution page, as well as the whole home system knowledge page with on the blogs, that you can see the whole home system and the videos that we have to walk through that.
Great. Thank you, John.
Yes.
Okay. So we've given a lot of information. Like we said, we'll follow up with these slides. You'll get a copy of this presentation, the video, so you can review it again. But getting to the end here, before we start to answer questions, one thing that I like to tell people that I think covers a lot of people's questions, right? Because you hear best practices, you get information like this, you digest it, and you understand how these things work and what needs to be done. And then you look at your own situation and you say, how in the world do I take what I learned here and do I put it towards my own situation, my own mold remediation, my own sick kids, my own moisture issue in my home? What do I do? Okay. Well, our company and at Superstratum, we're really here. We understand that every situation is different, and we really want to help design a solution for you. And I'll use as an example myself. I live in a home right now where I have a moisture issue in the garage basement, and it's an issue with drainage on the property and the water table. So it's not a very easy thing to fix without tearing up a foundation and putting in a French drain and all that. It's also not a house I'm going to be in for a long period of time. So it doesn't make sense for me to be involved in getting that work done to fix the water issue. And so, of course, I have water that floods into that, that basement when it rains really hard. And that has led to some mold growth that I have to deal with. In this case, I am dealing with a situation that doesn't really fit the narrative that I just gave you, what I need to do. I need to create some kind of temporary solution. I need to use products in a way in my own life and in my own situation to get the results that I need. And that's not the same for every person. Some people need deep forensic decontamination and cleaning with our products, with professionals they have very complex mold remediation, building failure issue. That's one set of people. And then there are people who need general cleaning, who want to maintain this clean environment, use better products, begin detoxification, stay ahead of mycotoxins. And then there are people who sit somewhere in between where they can't get out of an environment, they can't go full blown into remediation, but they're struggling. They need something to help stabilize their environment so that they can begin to work on their health. We're able to do that, and we're going to give you some resources. We'll follow up with an email that'll have a link where you can book a call with a detox expert of ours. You can get help ordering. I'm going to talk really briefly about that as well, but I want to let you know that. Also, for this webinar, so the exclusive offer today is we have a 15% off code for essentially the whole store. This covers all of the bundles. So our mold and mycotoxin cleaning bundle, which has all of our Superstratum products plus Pure One, which is an EPA registered disinfectant and biocide that is EPA registered for biofilm as well. So it's a very, very powerful cleaning tool. You can read about that on our website. So all of our bundles up to our bundle 2000 are 15% off. And you can also use our custom order wizard to build a custom treatment plan for your home. If you go to our website or you go to wizard.superstratum.co, you will find that wizard and you can enter in your information for your home, create an account. That'll create a custom order of your products and send you to Shopify, and then you'll get custom instructions on how to perform that in your home as well. So either of those, you can go straight to our store, use this code. We'll send you this code in the email with the video. You can go to our order wizard to order a custom treatment plan for your home, or you can follow the link that will also be in the email, and you can book a call with a detox specialist from our team and talk a little bit more in detail about your problem. Yes, this is the files. As I mentioned, if you do need more help, if you're not sure what you need, then you can set up the call with that detox expert and we'll get you specific guidance for your home and your situation. Okay, great. That was a lot of information. Again, thank you guys for here. I want to take some questions now. And I think the best way to do this, if you can just put the questions in the chat here, I'll look at a couple of the questions that we've got, and then we'll answer a couple. John and I will answer a couple here. Okay, John, Kim is asking, how are the fogging and gassing different? Could you briefly tell her that?
Sure. Fogging is always think of fogging is when you are dispensing a small particle of liquids. And so you're using what we recommend, a ULV fogger. The Silver Bullet is the one we typically recommend. You will see it online. Amazon does sell them. And that you can dial in the amount of volume of liquid coming out. So that's the difference. A gas is a gas. And so a gas has a very, very small particle size, and it can also penetrate the walls where a liquid will not. So when we gas, the main objective of that is to get to the places where the liquid or the fogging would not get to. So that's the difference.
Okay, great. Mary says, we're concerned because our daughter brought items back into the home that didn't get fogged and bombed. We are thinking of doing the process again once all our belongings are back in the house. Do you recommend that we do the whole process as extensive as we did the first time? So what I like to tell people is I think first of all, depends on how you feel. Everyone responds differently. It's impossible within our answer of that to know what the exposure was, what mold, what mycotoxins were there. But the best indicator is, okay, this happened. You're worried. Maybe there's potential re-exposure, contamination. How do you feel? If you do feel issues, if you can feel a difference and your health is responding negatively to those items being in the home, then you could isolate those items into a particular room. If they have been, you could do the HEPA vacuuming and the cleaning with our everyday cleaner. Those instructions are in our contents cleaning guide, which is available on our website in our knowledge section. So you could try that and then see how you feel. If that still wasn't enough, then you could go to the bombing again in a containment area, as that final step. I don't know, John, if you wanted to amend that or add anything.
That's dead on.
Okay. Okay, great. Um, Thoughts on using ozone, John?
Well, does when God creates ozone, it does work. However, when man creates ozone in your particular space, we don't breathe oxygen. Okay, we breathe air, and air is 78% nitrogen and 12% oxygen, a little bit of argon thrown in there. So what that means is when you were splitting that molecule of O2 into an O3 particle, you're also splitting the N2 groups in that mechanism. So as you produce ozone in this environment that you do need to be out of, okay, you do not live and you do not work in an ozone environment when these are going off, you're creating nitric acid and nitric oxide at very high levels in that home, and those things will also damage, equipment. Nitric acid, is a stripper and it can be used to strip paint. So you got to be very careful with these types of instruments. The EPA several years ago stopped recommending ozone all the way around. So I also believe in that. I know ozone works in nature, but because we manufacture it, you're using industrial equipment, I do not recommend it, for this process. Also, the level that you need to get to oxidize the mycotoxins at a much higher level and over a longer period of time than the system that we offer to you. So that's the biggest difference between ozone and our whole home system. And I saw another question here and just kind of lead right into it. Our whole home system is a holistic encompassing system. It is not one cherry picked part out of it. The fogging of the HOCl, the microclean, as well as the gassing is an overlapping. Um, there may be situations where you can do multiple ones, what we can recommend on a line case basis, but overall, it's not a cherry pick type thing. You need to follow the whole home system protocol to get and maximize, so that this environment that you're going to use this in, is going to be successful removing these mycotoxins.
Yep. Great, John. All right, let's see. For the building cleaner, do plants need to be removed? No, plants don't need to be removed for the building cleaner. Plants do need to be removed for the gassing. So people, pets, and plants should be out of the home for the phase 2 of the whole home system, the gassing. But for the building cleaner, you do not, and you don't need to wear any PPE as well. It's a pretty safe chemical for that as well. So very easy to do. Can everyday cleaner be used on a pet's coat? Yes, it can. There are lots of uses for the everyday cleaner and HOCl. Okay, let's see. Vicky, my NP said get generators and run 4 hours a day while out of the house. Yep. That on the ozone, running 4 hours a day. So I know this Kim asked, I know water damage also produces various bacteria even more quickly than it produces mycotoxins. Do your products by chance attack bacteria as well? So great question. So that is correct. And bacteria, so if we're talking about antimicrobials, killing mold, killing bacteria, that is one category. When we're talking about cleaning the mycotoxins or destroying the mycotoxins, oxidizing them, that is a different category or class. Superstratum products are specifically designed to destroy the mycotoxins. Now, some of the chemistries that we use are used in different antimicrobials and things like that. But our products are for the types of claims that someone would be looking for to know from the EPA that they killed the bacteria. Those are going to belong over here in the disinfectants and the antibacterials. They don't exist within our products, even though some of the chemistries that we use are still found over here. Now, we do carry a product called Pure One, and this is an EPA registered bactericide, fungicide. It actually is the only EPA registered product that has claims against biofilm and bacteria as well. So it's a very, very powerful cleaner to use. It comes in tablet form. You can drop it right into 4 of them into a gallon of water, and it's somewhat similar to our building cleaner in chemistry, but it has some other features that make it specifically effective and approved for killing bacteria. Okay, are there any other questions in the chat? Do you have to use gloves that protect your skin for the disinfectant, John, for the Pure One tabs?
Well, with any chemicals, I do recommend people to use gloves. And when you first fog, I would recommend using a mask until you can check. But these chemistries are very safe. If you get them on your skin, I mean, it's you don't. Some people don't even react whatsoever to them. But I always use extra caution because you are sensitized clients or individuals, so you may want to be a little overcautious initially. But typically in the process of any of these chemistries, they're not going to hurt you if they do get onto your skin.
Right. And Kim asked, did I hear you mention that it only addresses 4 to 5 top mycotoxins, so not all of them? So our research white paper was done on, was it 4 or 5 mycotoxins, Sean? Yeah, 4 mycotoxins. It's the most common mycotoxins. There are many types of mycotoxins, and our mycotoxin detection kit can now detect over 40 mycotoxins. The issue with testing on all the different mycotoxins is that mycotoxins are very heavily regulated. They're controlled by the Department of Defense. You have to be a level 1 biolab. They're very difficult to get even to run tests on. And the chemical structure of mycotoxins are all very similar. They have similar characteristics. And our products, our building cleaner, has been proven to work in a mechanism that we have seen anecdotally through all the experience of our customers, and all of the jobs that we've done and all of the years of work with our products. We have evidence to believe that it works very broadly against mycotoxins. So our white paper does show its effectiveness against specific toxins, and there's some variation in those, which you can go read about. But what we experience with our customers and how people feel and what the theoretical chemistry tells us is that, our building cleaner will work very broadly against mycotoxins. All right. Well, great. Well, this is 12:01, so right on time here. We're ending. I want to thank everybody for joining. Like we said, we'll follow up here. We'll send you this video. We'll give you some of these resources and some of the links. The code will be in that email, and you guys are welcome to contact us and book a call with Elizabeth or John or at any time. So thanks so much. See you again soon.